And just a quick background, my name is Mari Fong. I'm a life coach and musician. I'm sorry, life coach for musicians. I'm
Wow.
also I've been a music journalist for a long time. And I just want to thank you for being on the podcast and congratulations on the album. It is
Thank you.
amazing. I've
Thank
listened to the whole thing.
I love
And
that.
well, there are three words that I describe for this album. It's fun, it's uh, kind of dreamy, and also it's avant-garde. And it's a really good album to vent to.
That was the point.
Yeah, I totally got that. Uh, but the podcast is all about sharing your story on mental health, how that personally affects you. We really focus on solutions. So, things that you use for your mental health toolkit. Uh, I'm going to ask you questions that are kind of geared around that and also around your music. Um, I ask everyone just to be open and honest because just like in music, the more vulnerable and raw we are, the more it connects with fans. They can really, you know, they connect with all of that. And sometimes the most difficult parts of our lives, people connect with the most.
Totally.
Um, yeah, but you are really a survivor in so many ways. But do you have any questions for me before we start?
I don't. I'm excited. Let's go.
Okay, cool.
Morning therapy.
To be a therapist on the podcast, but sometimes it happens that way. But we have Hannah Hooper of Grouplove today. I am so excited to have you on. And you dropped a surprise album called This Is This just a few days ago on March 12th, 2021. And the first single is Deadline. So big congrats on that.
Thank you.
And I listened to the whole album and I described it in three adjectives, although there's so many more that I could think of. But I feel like it's fun, it's dreamy, it's avant garde, but it's really a great album to vent to.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly why we made it. We made it for our own need to vent during this time. And with the response we've gotten in the last few days has been that, like, exactly what we were talking about before, but the more honest you are, the more vulnerable we are, the more people are responding to it. And I think this is honestly a testament to that.
Yeah, I loved all the songs, but there was one song in particular that was more deeper, a little bit darker. It's called Shout. And some of the lyrics include I cover up my wounds, always with my sleeves, and black and blue and green and everything in between. I hide behind my friends so no one really sees you are not alone. What was your intention behind writing the song?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that song came out of just so much work I've been doing on myself, really. And the idea that all my wounds and all my pain and stuff is actually beautiful and is something that needs to be shared. And this album for me, like that, learning to sing that way was really this learning to scream with my band and learning to, I mean, I cried a lot recording that song. I think there's been this part of me, this my whole life that I've been sort of ashamed of or unable to get in touch with. And she's more aggressive and, uh, yeah, she's in pain and she's scared and she's been in places that have been uncomfortable. And, I've definitely in my life been hard on myself. And I think that this song was me just like, I honestly felt a pretty serious release when the song was written. It was like a healing that happened really quickly. It's like I've been in therapy like my whole life, but it took writing the song to actually put everything I've been working on together in one moment and release it. And yeah, every time I perform that song, I kind of go back to I can attach myself to the feeling before writing the song, and then who I am now after writing the song. And it's crazy how certain events in your life can change you. And writing this and being so free in a room with my band and them allowing me to be that way. And then they honestly came in the moment and they were like, started singing, "You are not alone. You are not alone." Like it was this whole cathartic experience for all of us. And so this song it took shape in a really beautiful way at a really important point for me.
Well, you know what? I completely felt that. And, I can see, you performing this live and everybody just shouting that and just having that same cathartic sort of feeling of just letting go and just, dropping like a lot of maybe the shame or the guilt or whatever it is that we're carrying that maybe doesn't, you know, have no use for us anymore. And,
So
to get lighter.
that's the goal. I mean, but inevitably our goal is, or my goal is to be happy, whatever that means. It's not in like a cheesy, like I want to be happy, but it's like life is the purpose for me is to find happiness. And that's always evolving and changing. And like starting at a really young age, I always felt I was battling that somehow. And there were so many different reasons. Like I think just going through puberty is a crazy experience as a woman, learning to love yourself, love your body, love who you are, like feel comfortable finding friends, exploring my artistry to discover who I really am, all that stuff. There's so many stages in learning to love myself, right? And
Mhm.
it's crazy now as a mother in a band and stuff like that that I really feel like I've taken this new step of really like getting to know myself and learning to love this person as a whole and not in pieces, not in separate compartmentalizing like, oh, this part of me is better than this part of me. It's like loving all of me has really been a huge thing. And now here I am.
There you are. You know, it's funny how, we can be so open and loving to other people and non-judgmental. But oftentimes we judge ourselves, and look at different parts of ourselves and really go hard on ourselves. And one thing that stood out when you were talking is that the feelings of shame. And we all grew up with things that we're embarrassed about or shameful about, feel shame. Is there something in particular that really sort of kind of haunted you from the past?
Oh, that's a good. I mean, I don't know if it was anything specific. I was honestly hard on myself on so many levels. It was kind of crazy. I feel like I had a brother and a sister who in like they were perfect in so many ways. They were like straight A students, they were star athletes, they were beautiful, they were physically fit, all just the whole thing. And I was the middle child and felt like my grades were kind of lower. I was chubby. I was always drawing and like by myself. I just felt like I didn't have the thing they had. So from a very young age, I felt different, and I feel like if they were listening to this, they're like, what are you talking about, Hannah? You were funny. But there was a person who I was in my house with my family. And then there was the person I was outside my house. And there was so much, I was just insecure. I really didn't know how to love myself for who I am. And I was always looking to change myself, whether it was in my style or in the way I ate food, like becoming thinner or I actually there's a memory. I remember in high school I was put on Adderall because for attention, whatever reasons they thought. And I remember it changing me so quickly. Like it changed my body, it changed my grades, it changed the way I connected to people, and not in a positive way. Honestly, the outcome of taking that medication for a very long time really messed me up for a long time. I felt like it's like there's a quick fix to things, you know what I mean? And so on the outside, people thought, I think that I'd found this quick fix, or I thought I found this quick fix, but actually what it was doing was making me further and further away from myself. Like if this makes sense to you, like I was basically on an amphetamine for years that I thought was like helping me. And it was taking me away from like myself in a lot of ways. And I remember I have this memory of being in New York and getting off it and having to like the world sort of slowed down for a minute and I was really starting to paint things that I believed in and I was writing things that I understood and it was like I was back. I like came out of this, I don't know, this super sped up world that I'd been living in and it was an interesting experience. But it was kind of
Oh,
the beginning. Yeah, it was the beginning of something. I don't know. That was that was like a big thing for me to learn how to love myself without a medication or I don't know.
well, that's really interesting. How long were you on Adderall?
probably 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah,
Okay. And then after you got off of it, it sounds like you were able to see more of your emotions or maybe even feel more of your emotions. How did
definitely.
you how did you see yourself blossoming during that time? Because it kind of does sound like you started to blossom, you know, just kind of rediscovering yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, having some kind of a secret, like I felt like I had this secret thing that I'd been taking that was giving me more energy and giving me uh, the ability to do more than I was, but I wasn't actually doing it it wasn't like I was in my body when I was on Adderall, if this makes sense. So when I got off it, I was reconnecting to myself in more of a complete state. It was like this beautiful moment where I was like, I mean, to say it is crazy, but I am enough. Like I'm enough just without, I don't need something to help me. Like I can slow down, I can focus, I can do this. And actually that's what's interesting. That's what makes me unique is that I am easily distracted and I pull all these things together. And that's actually how I create art. So the moment I stopped, I really started becoming in touch with who I am as an artist on a really fundamental level. I feel like when I was on Adderall, I learned a lot of like technical skills, but I actually really learned who I am as an artist, my own unique voice. That's when I really started looking into that and that direction. And it was important.
Well, you talked about the song Shout, and I did feel like just raw vulnerability in that song, you know, um, different from the others on the album. And so, whatever was going on with you, uh, I really did feel that.
Thank you.
But you did mention a few things about your past. You mentioned possibly having some ADHD, maybe
Yeah.
symptoms because of the Adderall. When you look back, how has mental health affected you personally? Maybe
Ugh.
with mood disorders, depression, anxiety, anything like that?
I mean, I had it all. I think that like the biggest part of my journey was with mental health was like being in this band because there's no hiding when you're in a band. You're surrounded by people constantly. You have to go on stage, so you're in front of strangers. I mean, I was very insecure. I had to face a lot of my demons right away because I had really bad stage fright, which was the first thing I had to conquer. Was we were going on stage no matter what. Our first album, when we dropped it, had a lot of momentum, so our audience was getting bigger and bigger, and we are playing more and more shows. And so, along with that came a lot of like, wow, like who am I going to be on stage? Do I want to be this girl that is insecure about my body? Like, do I want to represent that for other women? Or do I want to like, I need to like learn to love this person now. And I honestly started dressing the part. I started wearing cat suits and loving my body and loving my shape and throwing my body around on stage. And just like as people started loving the band, I started learning how to, I almost had to create this person that I loved. And then I stepped into her, if that makes sense, because it was so much change all at once. And I knew that I wanted to be a positive image for other women. And to do that took like, honestly, it just took a lot of balls. I was like, I need to create this person. I need to step into her. And so that's what I did. Yeah.
Well, I can see where, well, I speak for myself, but you know, talking with a lot of musicians, a lot of them grew up very introverted and shy. And to
Yeah.
get up on stage, oh my gosh. So it's almost like you step into a persona or a character that you create. Is that true? And then I read that you also used to wear a mask
Yeah.
during your shows because
And
maybe that was kind of hiding a little bit.
a little bit. That was like, I mean, that's exactly what it was. I was hiding. And I really was trying to figure out how to just like the craziest thing is all along I was like, I know that there is this moment, there has to be this moment where this discomfort breaks. Like, and I'm not saying like it's gone now, but there's a way like I look forward to going on stage because I get to feel that superhero version of me, which is really exciting to be able to tap into that because we all have that person in us, and it's just learning how the more I learned to love myself, the more I was surprised at what I was doing. Like the more I was like, oh my God, like I'm like telling people to get their hands up on stage. I'm jumping into the audience. I'm in a cat suit. I'm writing music with my husband and my band. And like, I'm doing all these things that I was just like, if you'd gone back even just a few years, I would have been terrified to do any of them. Part of it was that I just had no choice and I had to keep doing it. So there's something in the active, just to like staying active, like continuing to do it every day, things become less scary. And so there wasn't just this sudden, like, it wasn't just all of a sudden overnight, like one show I was scared and the next show I wasn't. But I have a memory of being in Berlin and we couldn't find my mask. And I actually had just read a write up of a show before where someone was like, oh, I think that the girl in the band maybe has burns on her face or something because she's hiding under a mask. And I remember reading that like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe it's time to take the mask off. And then the next show we couldn't find it. I kind of secretly feel like my drummer at the time hid it, but we couldn't find it. So yeah, that was, I'm sure you can't tell with stage lights, but I was definitely bright red. Like when I get nervous, I get bright red from my chest all the way up to my face. Like I'm a redhead. It's like, there's no hiding it. So I feel like I was kind of in that state of shock for a while. And then, yeah, it slowly got easier.
Well, I'm a big advocate for practicing because I do find there's a lot of things that are scary, but the more that we do them, the more that it just gets more familiar to us, and we learn something every time we do something, right?
Every time.
So, yeah, it's like I have daughters myself, and I'll be like, just keep doing it. You're getting better every single time, and just that thought, it is true. I mean, same with so many different things. But talking about your live shows, I mean, you dropped Healer last year, just about this time, right at the start of the pandemic, and now you've dropped this. Can you tell me about the anxiety and the frustration of not being able to promote that album? Right when you had all those plans.
Yeah, it's actually like I was obviously in a different place then than I am now. But like when we found out, so there's like a little backstory to that. My Healer is called a Healer because I just had brain surgery. I don't know if you know that. So
Mhm.
that album, I honestly don't know if I was like fully recovered enough to be going on tour anyway. So there is like a little bit of light for me at the beginning of the pandemic that I had put all my heart and soul into this album with the band. And was in the middle of like doing all our outfits and lighting and like the whole state, everything was ready to go. We were at this high. We were in London. We were coming back to LA for our album release party. And it was the day we found out that the world was shutting down. And I remember initially, it was really, really hard to come down from that high when you've been building and making something. And also like I needed to get back on stage to show my body that I was healed. Literally. I wanted to know that I was better. And the craziest thing is that during this time we've, written and recorded this album. This is the album that really healed me in a way because I found my real voice. This album is the part of me that I've been hiding. Like there's a more aggressive, more emotional piece of me that I feel like I've been able to share. And it's really like, this has healed me. And I feel very, very complete as an artist, which I've never felt before. And it's exciting because I'm working from a new, like we're always writing, but I'm writing from a place that is really open. And so I think in a way, this pandemic has been terrible. We've made not a single penny since it started because we make all our money touring. It's been so hard on artists. It's been, just reading the news. It's been an awful time for everyone, really, really hard. And I don't want to play that down at all. But on a personal level, I have definitely found my voice. And so.
Well, I definitely heard the power behind the songs on that album. I mean, beyond the songs that I've heard from previous albums. So I could sense that, and I think, you definitely, it's good to receive that kind of energy, because I think it empowers listeners too. But you mentioned your brain surgery, and you had a
Cavern.
cavernous malformation,
Yeah.
and you had to have brain surgery. And at first, how did you respond receiving that news, especially being married with a daughter, that whole thing? How did you first respond to that?
Um, I honestly, it was a weird thing. I immediately started worrying about Christian and my husband and the way if the roles were reversed, how I would be so scared. Like because when he gets like a cold, I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go check that out. So I was, and he was just like a rock for me the whole time. So I honestly, which is something I do, I worry about the people around me before I worry about myself. So I was very concerned on how to explain it to my daughter and when would be the right time and um yeah, and just I was really concerned about him. So I think part of me was sort of playing up like, I'm cool, like let's keep working, like everything's fine. And in a way, because of all these things I'd been through in my life, it didn't feel that scary. I don't know why. It didn't I felt like I knew I would be okay and we were doing everything, all the steps we needed. And yeah, it was crazy to have a problem that I hadn't like self-inflicted on myself for the first time, like a problem that was like medical and serious, and it wasn't like something that I'd created in my mind. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense, like it was I mean, it was in my brain, but it wasn't. It was like a physical thing rather than depression or things that I feel like I've kind of self-imposed in my life. I don't know how to explain this in a way that's clear, but to have a medical condition, I was like, I knew that I would be okay, and I knew that the only person I was really checking in on, like Christian told me the story after the surgery when we knew I was okay, that we'd say goodnight at night and he would just lay on the pillow and like look at me and be like, oh my God, in like 2 weeks, my wife is going to get brain surgery. Like her head is going to get cut open and this thing is going to be removed. And I think, really like the strength that he had to not show me that he was scared was really what got me through. And the whole time, I mean, it was that he showed no fear around me. And it was he's an amazing person.
You know what? I mean, it's so important to have a good partner in your life. I mean, it's not just, the mental part of it, but the physical part, the intimacy. Um, so I'm really glad that you have Christian and your daughter and other people around you, to really support you and, help give you strength during those times. And, one thing I read is that months before the surgery, you said you tried to stay distracted and not spiral. And what does that mean to spiral for you?
Oh, well, it's like a loop almost. So like if I'm going to it happens sometimes when let's say I'm on tour, this is like a familiar thing for me, but if I'm on tour and my voice starts getting hoarse and it's the night before a show because we'll do like 5 shows in a row, spiraling for me is I'm in bed, I know I need to be going to sleep and I start thinking about, oh, it hurts when I swallow. Oh, I should go get some water. And I basically create this entire, it's like I live out the next few weeks of my life. They've become a disaster. I've lost my voice. Like I go through it all. And, I mean, I can like, you like live events out that will never take place in your life because through the power of your mind, like we go through so many more issues just by living them out, like imagining them than actually take place. And, yeah, that's spiraling for me. So I honestly, I meditate now every day and that has changed my life. I do not spiral as much. Meditation
And
is,
what is it that meditation brings to you? Or what do you receive from meditation?
I mean, first off, just an immense amount of clarity and calmness, which is, I have a pretty chaotic life. So I feel like that dedicating time for myself where I can be present and feel my breath and just know that like I am good. Like to come back to that place of like I am good, I am here, I am breathing, like all these things. Then I can like go on with it. And I'm like, okay, it's when I don't take that time for myself that everything can sort of pile up like like running late, dishes, writing a song, interviews, like all that stuff, just it all becomes the same level of intensity. It doesn't matter what it is. And so to be able to take a moment and slow down, then suddenly I'm like, oh, life is beautiful. And like, this is great.
Yeah, it does take those quiet moments to kind of realize all of those wonderful things in your life. And I saw a photo uh, that I found really interesting. I saw the words self care tattooed on Christian's fingers. And was there like an incident or situation that inspired him to get that tattoo?
Yeah, that actually, our friend Mac Miller put out an album, Selfcare, and he passed away. And Christian, it's become like there's been so many levels of that, but he tattooed that as to commemorate him. But then also, we are people that constantly need to remind ourselves to take care of ourselves, and that is sort of what like how you can start your day and then help others and like spread love and be able to put on a show like we do or any of it. Just it starts with loving yourself, and Christian is, I mean, I literally married Buddha. I don't know. I married the calmest, kindest, most supportive person ever. I mean, just if you look at our career, like the fact that not only is he so supportive of the album This Is This, where I'm literally singing more than I've ever sung in my life, he's so proud of it. And he was there just being like, you're crushing it, like go back in there. You know what I mean? Like to have someone who's so selfless in that way because he feels so fulfilled by other people's joy. It's really a beautiful thing. And he's taught me so much about that because he was already in that self-love. He's always been there. I don't know how. It was just his mom tells me he's just been this way his entire life. And it's wild and it's beautiful.
When I read about how you met, it almost seemed like when you saw him, the clouds parted and the birds started to sing. And it just seemed like this moment that the universe brought him to you or brought you both together. And so it's really great to hear that after, you had that initial feeling that all of those things about him just line up so well with you and your personality. Getting back to the self care,
Yeah,
which is so important, to keep that in mind. And my gosh, he has a reminder now on his fingers, along
I
with, of
know.
course, Mac Miller, which, great friends. And I'm so sorry, to hear that you lost your friend. But what does self care look like to you?
Oh, I think self-care, it's really as actually this is a really interesting thing because we moved from Los Angeles to Atlanta during this pandemic. And I think when I was in LA, I was, sort of obsessed. I would wake up there and open my email and I would have like, do this 6-day juice cleanse, like come self-care yoga down the block, like blah, blah, blah. The consumerist version of what self-care is, obviously. That doesn't mean don't take care of yourself in that way. But I'm saying I moved to Atlanta and obviously it's a very different city here, but self-care is turning my phone off. Self-care is being present with my daughter and just being with her and going on a walk. Self-care is slowing down and not trying to get 400,000 things done at the same time, but actually experiencing each thing and living in it and enjoying it so that I've accomplished it to the fullest. So that when I move on to the next thing, I feel like I gave that my all, whether it was my daughter or time with my husband or, writing a letter to someone or this Zoom call right here. You know what I mean? Like it's whatever I'm doing, I want to be here and then, do the next thing. So I remember in LA, I would have my phone open. I'd be eating lunch. I'd be surrounded by the band, like it was too many things at once. I wasn't taking care of myself in a way that I thought I was. And by stepping away from that pattern, I've just been like, I mean, I genuinely feel so much healthier here. And I think a lot of it is the fact that you can't really buy self care. You have to just do it. And that really means, for me, it means just slowing down. And you get as much done at the end of the day. And I feel really fulfilled because I'm in it. I'm living my life.
Yeah, I think that's one of the gifts the pandemic has brought us, even though it's been such a challenging time in so many different ways. I think it's almost forced us to, if we haven't slowed down, to slow down. And it really has made things clear on what's important in our lives, the people that are important in our lives, and the things that we really reach out, to do. You mentioned therapy, that you had been, going to therapy throughout your life. Is that something that you still continue to do? And if so, what are the benefits for you?
Well, first of all, I found an amazing therapist in LA who I will not let go of. She moved to Sonoma and I moved to Atlanta, so we FaceTime, and I try to FaceTime with her. I used to do it a lot more regularly, especially on tour, but I FaceTime with her like twice a month now, and it's honestly for me just to check in. And I like having someone outside of my world who can weigh in on situations, just give me an outside perspective. So she's become a friend in a way, which I don't know if that's really like it's supposed to be that way in therapy, but I look forward to talking to her, and I look forward to just having another perspective on my life. So she's been with me through very hard times, and she's now sort of celebrating with me in the space that I'm in, and we know it won't last forever. So I'm going to need her, to lean on her again. And it's just nice having that. Like the moment I start telling her what I'm going through, I already see what I need to do. It's like having that person who it's almost like as I speak to her, I'm like, oh, I just need to call my mom. Or like, oh, you know what I mean? I need more time by myself or whatever it is. But it's during that time with her that I come to understand what's missing or what's overflowing my cup or whatever it is.
Well, you mentioned one thing that is actually pretty common among musicians, which is, getting nervous on stage and also having panic attacks. Is there anything that you learned in therapy to kind of help with the panic attacks?
That's a good question. My panic attacks are so like unexpected that I feel like I think that I learned in therapy is that rituals for me are really important. So things like meditation every day. Those are things that stop me from getting overwhelmed and that can lead to panic attacks. So it's harder on tour because it's busy, but it's like I have to find time for myself every day, and it's just 20 minutes. It's not a big deal, but it as a mother and an artist and all these things we all know, whoever is, that 20 minutes actually seems impossible some days. You're like, I don't know how we're going to do this, but if it means waking up earlier or taking a minute when everyone's having that. There are moments when all the guys are in the band and everyone's pouring that first glass of wine for the night. We're all about to sit down. Will is asleep. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go take that 20 minutes for myself before we all hang out. And it's just taking that time.
You mentioned Mac Miller,
Yeah.
and I know you've done charitable things for the Mac Miller Fund. Uh, Losing him as a friend, how did that affect you?
I mean, it was so sudden. I think, I've actually lost a lot of friends in my life, which is weird. When I was living in New York, a lot of friends passed away, mostly from drug use. But it hit harder with him because we were just texting and we were just planning on him meeting Willa. And he just had, I don't know, but there was just a soul connection there. It was really hard. And actually, from the moment that I found out he passed away, I wrote a song called Broken Angel, which we put out. And I honestly felt like he wrote that song. It was weird. It was like I was just at the piano and I don't remember writing it. It was a crazy thing. And I remember calling his mom, who I love and I'm very close to. And I don't know, it's for some reason he is someone who's passed away that I still can't understand it. But of anyone, because we have his music, there's like this way that he feels close always. And it's definitely a tragedy. It really is. It's very sad.
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why I started the podcast is, we're losing these musicians, that bring us so much joy, and they're leaving the world, in so much pain, or, an addiction has overtaken them. Um, it's just it's heartbreaking. And I want to see people live and have us all, enjoy all this wonderful music and wonderful people. But I
It's
know that
yeah. I
what?
think that creativity, like a lot of it, the source is pain. You know what I mean? So you dig into that. It can hurt. It can be hard to live in that and to like a lot of people I know that are creative. Yeah, there's a lot of pain there, and that's where we write. That's where we go to write. And for some people, like I feel lucky because a song like Shout, I got to release that. I really genuinely felt a release. But yeah, it's unescapable for some people.
Well, one thing that I really appreciate and admire is that you've been doing so much charitable work and um, speaking out and taking action on social and political, different topics like Campaign Zero, where you talk about ending police brutality. Um, you talked about fighting voter suppression. WearOrange.com, which is taking action against gun violence, which again is really wonderful. And what is it, you know, that has made you want to participate in so many charitable and social political events of the recent year?
Oh my God. I mean, this year has opened up so many doors and windows, and it's just brought so much stuff to light that obviously has been going on, but it's at the forefront of what's happening right now. I feel like as a musician, we're given a platform where we can bring things into light, or we can just focus on our music. And our band is we find it really important to intertwine the two, and if we can get other people and fans to get involved, then why not? Like, why not use our platform to do that? And so I just think in that way, yeah, that's why we're doing what we do.
I mean, I feel like you've been really busy during this time. I mean, I've seen so much that you've been doing online, fundraisers, and now that you have this album, what are your plans to promote it? You know, with our limitations. Uh, you know, hopefully, the vaccine is out, so who knows? Hopefully, things will change soon, but everything is still very unpredictable. How do you plan on promoting this album?
Well, we are doing a monthly live stream called This Is This Moment through Moment House, where we're going to be playing, a lot of these songs. We just did our first one last Thursday, which was the night before the album dropped. We played the entire album front to back, which was really fun. But we're really just creating this space where our fans can come and experience different shows with us. We're going to do some wild stuff there. I'm going to build this entire installation and make a bunch of outfits for us. And I just want it to be something people have never experienced and also give us an opportunity to play with ideas. But we're also, it's a crazy time. We're going to be doing a lot of live streams, a lot of Zooms, a lot of interviews, and a lot of music videos. I mean, it's really it's a lot of screen time, but it's the way to share the album. And then hopefully people will just respond to it also. I mean, our immediate fan base, the feedback has been overwhelming. It really has. It's been pretty beautiful. So let's keep that up.
Well, you know what? I was at the one last Thursday, and I really loved not only the performances, but there's a special interaction that you have with your fans. And I think the great thing about these live streams is there is a way to interact, which is different than a live show, and in some ways more intimate because, fans are asking you questions and listening to you in real time. So that is really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. That was one thing at the beginning of the pandemic, doing the Insta lives that I really enjoyed was just like being able to get to know our fans on such a personal level. Like we would invite them in so we'd see their face and we'd all talk and we'd play a song that they requested. And so I do feel, I mean, we have the coolest fans ever. And there's like our demographic is so varied. It's pretty amazing. So um like, yeah, I don't know. We owe everything to them. And just their constant support. I mean, we have people that I consider like I want them to come over and hang out. We're all vaccinated, but we also have so many insane artists. I mean, like so many of our fans are amazing artists. They send in artwork and songs they've been writing, and it's just a beautiful thing. It's become more of a less of like band fans and more of a community, group love community, which I love.
Well, the band's name also just kind of brings everybody together, right?
We hope so.
And
That's the plan.
well, one thing I think is really interesting is that you actually started out as an artist uh, painting, and you've done some gallery shows. But to incorporate all of that into your, your live show, and you were talking about the costumes and the artwork on your albums and so forth, I just really love that.
Thank you. It's a blast because being an artist, you don't. I think most people that are singers or painters, you'd be surprised how being creative can stretch into so many different mediums. It doesn't have to define you into one. And I actually feel really liberated that I can write a song, and while I'm in the studio with the guys, I can be painting a painting that might end up being our next album cover. And there's this beautiful thing where it's all connected. And I love that part.
Yeah, it is really beautiful. Um, Hannah, thank you so much for being on the Check Your Head podcast. I really loved hearing your stories. Is there anything else that you would like to say about mental health or about your band Grouplove?
Ooh, I mean, I will say that this band, um, it, I would say if you're dealing with something and you're in pain or you're going through a hard time, please know that we all are as well. Like everyone in the band has their own issues and things that they deal with that are pretty heavy. And we lean on each other and we talk about it. And it's not something that shouldn't be, this should be normalized. Everyone in the entire world goes through it, whether it's for a long time or a short period. And we all need to talk about it, normalize it, listen to each other, ask for help when it's at that point, like way before that point, actually. And know that it's okay and you're going to be okay. And it's okay to be not okay.
Well, thank you so much for taking part in normalizing the conversation. You know what happens when you take part in our mission, which is part of that, and also providing solutions on all of these great things that you have in your mental health toolkit, but you become a superhero.
Yeah.
You become a check your head superhero, which means, just remind you every day that you are a superhero.
I love that.
Thanks. Well, thank you so much, Hannah Hooper
Thank you.
of Grouplove. And again, congratulations on your new album, This Is This, that just dropped on March 12th, 2021.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, dude, this album, I don't know what's happening, but people are like loving it. I mean, I know it's happening, but it's so exciting.
Well, I cannot wait to see you guys live. I've seen you guys live before. I mean, I've gone to Coachella like 10 years straight and so many music festivals, but my God, this music is so good for just everybody, everybody to come and sing along and dance. So I can't wait.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
And
Love it.
thank you again for being an advocate for mental health. It's just so important now. And also just working so hard and participating in all of these great events that are just making the world better. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Guys.
Right. See you.
Bye.
Bye.